Even Sam Altman says, don't use ChatGPT for personal information.
This is Eamon. He's an engineer from Ireland. Last year, he decided to make an AI that cared about people's privacy. Sounds hard.
Hi, my name is Eamon, and our team at Proton built an AI assistant that doesn't steal your data. It's a cat.
Yes, it has a cat icon.
I think that cats are sort of nonchalant, as in they don't care about your data. Before we got to work, we asked ourselves,
what worries people about AI companies?
Trust.
They straight up say that they're using your data to train their models.
What's preventing them from actually just going down the route of selling my personal data?
Somebody could just go in there and start looking through your stuff, looking at your pictures.
We built something where you don't have to worry about this.
Imagine an AI that you can ask anything. Well, there are plenty of those, but they all steal your information, thoughts, and questions. What if there was one that never held on to your data? What if there was an AI that wasn't evil?
We couldn't find any AI that put privacy first, so we built
the first version of Lumo. Yes, we will cover the latest version in this video, but first,
let's talk Lumo 1.0 and how it's different from the rest. So core to Lumo's values is that we do not use user data to train models. So this means that we cannot use it for analytics, behavioral profiling, or, for example, targeted advertising.
So, how exactly do you protect everyone's data?
Like the famous Proton mail, Lumo also uses zero-access encryption to protect your data. So maybe let's go into how encryption works at a basic level. Now, for example, I have Alice and Bob. There's always Alice and Bob for encryption diagrams.
Alice and Bob don't want anyone reading their messages, so they send encrypted messages using a private key and a public key. Think of the public key as a padlock, and the private key is the only thing that can open it. Alice sends Bob a message using Bob's public key to encrypt it.
So Alice says, "Hi Bob."
Now, if anyone was to see this message, it would look like
gobbledygook.
Bob receives the message and uses his private key to unlock the message.
So in a similar way, whenever Alice is using Lumo,
whatever she writes is also encrypted. So to anyone else, it looks like
gobbledygook. Then this encrypted payload is sent to Proton servers, meaning that when Alice logs in on her phone, her keys are used to decrypt the payload and then show all the chats that she might have created in a different device. Even as Proton employees, we have no access to any of your data. I think we did a pretty good job of Lumo 1.0, but we got a lot of feedback and we know we have a lot of things to improve.
Rome wasn't built in a day. So how can Lumo 1.0 be improved? Speed.
So someone said a little slow at Ask Lumo.
Cat's paws, it's to be expected.
Someone said that the app is very slow. We're working on that.
We've listened, and that's why we created
Lumo 2.0.
Speed comes down to multiple things. First, the response of Lumo to your questions. Also, the loading times for the applications. And mobile performance. Combining all these different facets together, we have achieved a 50% speed increase.
Wow, that's a lot of percents. So how else are you improving 2.0?
For Lumo 1.0, we focused on text because that is what most people are using on a day-to-day basis. But as things have progressed over time, more people have asked for
vision capabilities.
Someone said there is no option to upload images.
I've tried Lumo for a couple of days now, and I wish I could do the full change from ChatGPT, but it is not possible. It is not able to generate images.
Why is there no option to upload images from the gallery? Not anymore.
I read all of your comments, particularly on Reddit. I understand frustrations, I understand what you want to do. This includes image upload, image generation, and image editing. So anything that you could do with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever else, you can do it also now within Lumo.
But why not use ChatGPT for your image needs? What exactly can they do with a picture of me?
Let's upload an image to, say, Gemini or ChatGPT with two people skiing. You may think that this is just an image, but it actually contains lots of information. This image contains information about the date the image was taken, sometimes the GPS location, and other information, for example, about the camera that took the photograph. This is what we call metadata. When you upload these images, tools are also extracting information from them. For example, if I upload this image and I ask it to describe it, it's going to tell me that there's two people, and these two people are skiing, but they also have facial recognition data on these people. So person one goes to Eamon, Comparison 2 goes to my wife. In this case, maybe they're also looking at what clothes they're wearing, for example. So they say that they have a Patagonia jacket. A company focused on advertising now has key information that they can use to target ads for you. For example, they may show you more advertisements with Patagonia, more advertisements about ski resorts, for example, or more advertising about particular things for the camera that you've bought or that you've used to upload that image. Proton does not do advertising. It does not care about any of this information, so we don't have any of this graph.
No ads. Awesome. Anything else you addressed? Hallucinations.
Someone said that Lumo hallucinates a lot.
I can confirm that Ask Lumo hallucinates a lot. That kitty needs to switch from mushrooms to catnip.
I wonder if it's hallucinations or straight up gaslighting.
It tried really hard to convince me that there was no Costco in Iceland. We've had one since 2017.
Hallucinations, they happen for a number of reasons. Lack of context, uncertainty, in this case like ambiguity, or false information or conflicting information inside the training data. To understand how hallucinations happen, perhaps we need to go back and look at how LLMs or large language models work.
For example, let's say you start writing a prompt and submit the sentence unfinished.
Fox went, maybe I should have made it a cat or something.
Yes, cat please.
A cat went to the park. It.
Now the LLM has to start guessing what the rest of the sentence would be.
At this point, what is it? It can refer to the park, or it could refer to the cat. What the LLM is doing is predicting what the next word is going to be. In this case, imagine that it misunderstood what it was and it thought it was a park.
This often happens because of lack of context.
The next word could be is. Is predicted based on a list of probabilities.
The model calculates how likely every possible next word is based on patterns it learned during training, and then chooses one of the most likely options.
For example, is got a probability of being 0.9, 90% chance that is the next word. Was could be 0.005, and so on. Models use a parameter called the temperature.
So temperature is a setting that determines how adventurous the AI response is.
Yeah, I mean, the temperature basically says how likely is it that I'm going to select the top word. So the temperature is 0, for example.
The lower the temperature, the more likely it picks the most probable word.
If the temperature is greater than 1, it will start flattening the probabilities. So instead of it looking like this, it will look something more like this.
Flattening the probability makes the most probable words less dominant. It spreads the chances out more evenly and makes the next word more random,
making it more likely that I start selecting terms around here. This is also the source of hallucinations, because I start selecting words which are less likely. Fundamentally, behind every AI chat assistant, this is how it works in a very basic way. It generates a list of possible tokens based on these associations, and then it selects the next token. And it keeps doing that until it finishes generating all the text it needs to do to complete its task.
Okay, we get what hallucinations are, but how are you improving them?
So one way of doing this is to provide better web results. In our previous versions of web search, we were returning small snippets which summarize a page. In the new version of Lumo, we return back the full page content, which means that it's less likely we make stuff up because we've got the full information rather than a summarized piece of information. The other part of the change is that we fundamentally changed the models behind Lumo. One such model, for example, is GLM 5 and Kimi 2.5. GLM 5 was created by Z.ai, and it's the current best open source model for accuracy, but also in terms of reduced hallucinations. Most models, for example Gemini, have a high hallucination rate. They will tend to answer all the time, even if they're wrong. With models such as GLM 5 and Kimi K2.5, which have reasoning and thinking built into them, we now have smarter models for better performance in Lumo. So with Lumo, you can do all the things that you can do within tools like ChatGPT, and your data is none of our business.